move to our next speaker. And I have known Konni Burton for a number of years online. Engaged on Twitter and through email and through Facebook. She came to the RedState gathering in Charleston back in, I guess that would have been 2011. And she's gotten involved in politics over the years. And we are actually in right now the district in which she's running for the Texas State Senate. Now, it would probably be even more exciting were her opponent the person who currently occupies the seat. But Wendy Davis is running for governor. And so Konni Burton, Texans are going to have the pleasure of both voting against Wendy Davis in November and handing her seat to a wonderful, wonderful person who is going to be a fantastic state senator and will make Texans proud, and I hope just be the beginning of a very awesome career. I'm absolutely delighted she could be here this morning. The next state senator of the very place we're in Fort Worth, Texas, Konni Burton.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey! Good morning, everybody. How are y'all this morning? Good, good. So happy to be here. I want to thank you so much for that introduction, Eric. It's quite an honor to be here. When I was invited to be a speaker here at the RedState Convention, RedState Gathering, I couldn't believe it because it was only a couple of years ago I was out there with all of you sitting in those seats. So it's quite an honor now to be here speaking here to this, at this gathering. You know, I've been a conservative Republican all my life. But it was in 2007 that I got involved in the grassroots level of politics because of what I and so many others saw happening at the national state level. Even with Republicans in charge, our federal government continued to grow larger and larger, encroach more and more into our lives, and the national debt continued to explode. Unfortunately, leaders on both sides of the aisle didn't seem to have the courage to address these problems. As someone that was very concerned about what was happening to our country, I could not stand idly by any longer. So I joined and helped lead a conservative grassroots organization, got involved with statewide conservative organizations here in Texas, and attended conservative events throughout the country, not the least of which were these RedState gatherings. All of that helped me to quickly realize that true change in politics happens from the bottom up. So I began focusing on state and local level politics as well. Being on an advisory committee in Austin helped me to realize that even in Texas, we are plagued with the same go-along to get-along mentality that is crippling our nation. And just like at the national level, it's not just Democrats that we have to worry about in our state. It's also the Republicans who don't mind walking away from a legislative session with zero accomplishments and bigger budgets. However, we started experiencing something remarkable here in Texas. Leaders across our communities who were ready to fight back began stepping up. And so we, in the grassroots, started getting to work. And those two things together have brought victories for some of the most courageous conservative warriors we now have fighting in the halls of the Texas Capitol. They fight against the same establishment, big government mentality we see on the national stage. And speaking of the national stage, another courageous conservative warrior that stepped up and we worked hard for is now fighting in the halls of our nation's capital. You might have heard him mentioned a couple of times. Our junior senator from Texas, Ted Cruz. But Even with all our great wins, the 2012 election still left us with one of the biggest thorns in our side here in Tarrant County, Wendy Davis. One of the most liberal politicians in Texas also won her reelection. That's when the work of finding someone to run against her in the next election began. However, I never expected to see fingers pointing back at me to be the one to step up. Encouragement from others did cause me to begin to think seriously about running, though. And after much thought and deliberation and the blessing of my family, I decided to throw my hat in the ring. We were the first campaign to enter the primary election and eventually had 4 opponents in a very hotly contested race. Of course, they all claimed they had more experience and had more business community support. But the best part of the primary campaign was witnessing the frustration of all our opponents as our campaign gained more momentum than all of theirs combined. The biggest difference between myself and our 4 opponents was our consistent conservative message and the fact that we were the only candidate who came from the grassroots. Every year, we see men and women show up and ask to be elected by the people when they have never shown a willingness to sacrifice their time, talent, or treasure on the front lines and in the trenches for conservatives. We not only were in first place on election night, but won our primary runoff by a 20-point margin. The energy of the grassroots is contagious and is spreading across Tarrant County like wildfire. Battleground Texas and Wendy Davis's campaign might be headquartered here in Fort Worth, but this November will be their wake-up call when we take back Senate District 10 and restore principled conservative representation to the Texas Senate. When I look out at all of you, I have hope for our country. I have pride in all that this conservative movement has accomplished and hope for all it will accomplish as we all continue to sacrifice for this nation we love. I think we can all admit that this conservative grassroots movement is in a maturing phase. 2 years ago, 4 years ago, we were mocked. Now we are taken much more seriously, and many of the men and women we strongly supported are in office, being part of policy discussions that will determine the direction of our states and nation. However, in order to strengthen our movement, I believe we must keep several things in mind. First, we need to champion the message of opportunity. When we talk about limiting the role of government and standing on the principles of liberty and freedom, we need to always keep in mind that these policies promote and provide more opportunities to those who desire to dream beyond what their current circumstances present them. Only in America do we have champions like Ted Cruz, who clearly learned from his dad, who came from nothing, that the hard work of his parents and personal determination of the individual is how opportunities and prosperity is obtained, and would in any other country be out of reach. The policies of the left are about control. The policies we conservatives believe in are about upward mobility and prosperity through opportunities that only exist where freedom is cherished. Second, we need always to be moving out of our echo chamber. Our ideas are winning ideas. Our policies are right. But my biggest concern with where our movement decides to head is whether we will allow our ideas to grow through outreach and sweat equity of growing, or will we gather in monthly groups and preach to each other the ideas we already know we all agree with. We must keep our dedicated minority of activists engaged and energized, but we must also remember that these ideas resonate throughout our communities. And it's our job to get out and spread our message as far and wide as we can. In this campaign, I have been encouraged by many and discouraged by some. It's discouraging when I see conservatives who are frustrated with what's going on in the country, but haven't turned that frustration or concern into action. Some who believe what you and I believe seem content only listening to the bad news and then just reiterating it on, say, social media. They've fallen into the trap of feeling like that is enough, that that is being part of the solution, and nothing could be further from the truth. We have to turn those people into engaged citizens, ready to step up and be a part of this boots-on-the-ground grassroots movement. On the other hand, it's encouraging when I talk to thousands of people at their door and realize just how many average citizens are awake and engaged to the fact that our freedoms and liberties are under attack, not just in Washington, D.C., but in the halls of our state legislatures as well. Moms and dads who are scared about the future of Texas and America. These people are ripe for engaging, and we need to be bringing as many of them into our groups and meetings as possible. Education and increased engagement by average citizens will save this country that we are so concerned about losing. But we must move outside of the echo chamber that we can so easily get trapped in. Last but not least, we need to realize that establishment Republicans will stop at nothing to defeat us. The election results in the Mississippi primary between Chris McDaniel and Thad Cochran made me sick to my stomach. You know, conservatives very often get blamed for failing to unite behind all Republicans, but the establishment's definition of uniting is us getting in line. I refuse to play by different rules of engagement, and I refuse to stand idly by while the political elites in both parties sell out our children and grandchildren, all for the sake of keeping some precious system intact. Their system, their established customs and traditions that have created this political class versus the people, has gotten our country into a mess which will take an entire generation to fix. It's maddening, and the people are tired of it. In Mississippi, we saw the true colors of moderate establishment Republicans come through. It's not about taking the Senate back from Harry Reid. It's about keeping their hold on power. And even if it means convincing thousands of liberal Democrats to steal an election, they are happy as long as they win. The people are with us. And it's up to us to remember that and never back down. Instead of uniting behind chosen candidates for the sake of winning in November, let's agree to unite with all Republicans on the policies which have built our party. The policies of limited government, free markets, protecting innocent human life, and educational opportunity. This means that instead of always talking about how big or small and unnecessary government programs should be, we should be asking, why is government intruding on individuals in the first place? This means taking crony capitalism head on and not allowing our government to pick winners and losers in the marketplace by doling out millions of dollars to political allies. This means protecting the unborn, the most innocent human beings society will ever have. And this means making sure that our public education system is focused on delivering results for the children and rewarding teachers who deliver those results. If we force children to be stuck in failing schools, we are failing that child, and that is unacceptable. championing opportunity, moving outside of the echo chamber, and sticking to our guns. Well, I mean that literally and figuratively here. Those are three things I believe are essential for this conservative movement to mature into its next phase and be even more effective. As I said before, 2 years ago, I was just another grassroots activist. But today, the reality is nothing has really changed for me. I've got a name on a ballot, and I plan on getting a title because I do plan on winning the election in November. But at the end of the day, we are all equal in this movement, just with different roles. In order to make the sacrifices needed to see conservative policies implemented, it's going to take some of us stepping up and many of us being the army necessary to fight for and elect principled conservatives to positions across the nation, from county commissioner to President of the United States. So let's do this. I want to thank everybody here for your dedication to our country and the sacrifices you make each and every day. God bless you all, and God bless the